there is no specific trick to sign a big client. If they're interested in your product, you can sell it to them. The problem is they will find something they don't like in the product. It gave me the mental structure probably you need also in entrepreneurship, you know.
And I've recommended it to probably 100 founders so far, and all of them have absolutely loved it.
You're watching Next Big Wave, the podcast for founders by founders in Southeast Asia. In this episode, we're going to talk about founder journeys, growth strategies, and much more. Just to help me out, if you could like and subscribe, it would be awesome. And let's get into the episode.
All right. Hey, guys. This is Tim. I'm here with Donatello. Donatello, great to have you on the podcast. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Tim.
So Donatello's one of the founders or managing directors of SmartBite, a company that operates throughout Southeast Asia. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what SmartBite does?
So basically, SmartBite is a B2B tech company focused on providing meals to corporate clients. So we it's similar to Food Panda for business. This kind of model, no? So where we gather vendor and we use them to provide meal to our client using our platform. So everything passed through our platform.
Very cool, very cool. And then prior to that, do you want to talk about your experiences? You're currently in the Philippines, right? So maybe tell us about your trajectory professionally wise, what brought you to the Philippines and how you ended up at SmartBite.
So basically, it was really random. I never thought in my life to move to the Philippines, but yeah, I think I did the right, I made the right choice, you know, because I was looking for a market to invest, and Philippines is one of the most growing economy, I think, in Southeast Asia. And yeah, the first company I opened was import and distribution company, so nothing related to tech. And then I started to explore other opportunity, and through a good friend of mine, the ex-CEO of Zalora, I joined SmartBite. So I launched the SmartBite here in the Philippines uh, during the pandemic. So it was full pandemic when we launched, and so it was a good strategical move because we were able to um, basically we did 10x in 3 months. So you know, it was really a strategical move because everything was closed. So our model, especially for BPOs, because BPOs they were operating in that moment. So you know, they need food. Everything is closed. So you know, probably they found the only alternative was to use a provider like us. So you know.
Amazing. And I'm looking at your LinkedIn here. So you're a military guy. Your background is in the army. You did 11 years. That's quite impressive. You're the first guest here that has a veteran background. So can you tell me about how that kind of brought you into entrepreneurship? It's probably quite interesting story there.
Yeah, so I started very early in the army. So you know, I was 18, and you know, there are two ways there: or you go, or you study, you follow. Basically, you go to the university or you go to the army. But you need to study, you know, also in the army. So in the beginning, so I started my career in the army. And then I got stuck there for 12 years. So it's basically, it's basically, but you know, it was an amazing experience for me because I grew a lot. My character changed basically completely, and it gave me the mental structure probably you need also in entrepreneurship. You know, so I think I gained a lot of a lot of things internally. You know, so I can. Uh, Especially now everything feel for me a bit lighter, especially when you come from that kind of background. So you know, I started really randomly. I was too young. I joined because you know I liked that kind of idea of life. Then after 12 years I realized maybe it's not the life for me because I don't see myself anymore here. So I started to look around, and I was already planning to open something by myself, and at the end I ended up here. You know.
Yeah, so you're Italian, right? I'm correct.
Yes, I'm Italian.
I'm French, so it's funny because a lot of people, especially in Southeast Asia, would aspire to go to Europe and start something there. That's kind of the dream. But as people who are interested in building businesses, and it seems like you realize the same thing. It's like the opportunities are just not there to build a business in Europe. It's much more hard. There's the market is tough. People do not want you to succeed. That's just the mentalities, very similar between France and Italy. And so that brought you to Southeast Asia, and you did your analysis. You realized that the Philippines had a lot to offer, was a growing market. But what's interesting is you talk about the structure that the military brought you. How do you think that kind of reflects on yourself as an entrepreneur?
But when you open, when you have your own company, when you need to manage your own company, you have a lot of challenge daily. I think you know better than me. So the stress is how you handle the stress. This is uh, something you can learn if you come from the army, because you can imagine the stress we can have in certain situations. So um, you know for me it's like was a school for me, that period. So how I handle the stress at the moment is completely different. Probably someone who coming from a different someone with different past, some can handle the stress in a different way, let's put it like that.
Yeah, and speaking of stress, my Italian is not very good, but I'm reading again your profile. It seems like you were into parachuting,
Yes.
infantry. So that level of stress, I can totally understand how you can absorb the startup or the business stress a lot easier than most people. One thing that you were mentioning though is that your education was taken during the military. Is that right? Did you do some sort of business education in the military, or how did you end up doing business?
Mm, no, not really business. Was something related to the army, but they
Okay.
give you. Uh, I don't know if you can. I don't think it's similar to university, but it give you the background you need. Let's say, give you the culture you need. So I think it is enough at this point for me.
Okay, so you're self-taught in the business sense then.
Exactly.
Cool. So I'm also well. I went to business school, but I guarantee you don't learn that much about building a business in business school. So we probably started at the same level. I'm also very much self-taught in my opinion. So what were the tools you used to self-teach yourself about building a business, especially in the Philippines?
I think I started to read a lot of books, how to build a company, how to sell, because I'm really into sales. So I like to analyze the sales process, to build an amazing pipeline. So I started to study for by myself, buying different books I have here. So I think it's a process, it's a step by step process. You're starting from
Okay.
something, and then you automatically you move to a direction you like, And for me, it was sales in that case. Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. So any books in particular that really kind of made an impact on your life?
I think the last one, I can give you a few, but mhm,
Yeah, I'm always curious to learn more.
I can show you one if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Show me.
So this is an old book, and now I have here just to give you an example. This is the power of accountability. It's a very old book, but super interesting. Talking about how corporation determine basically the connection between corporation and institution. So it'll give you really the a general overview this market work, and it's something to start on. I think because um, it's really related about sales, because it give you the overview you need to also sell your product.
Okay, so you recommend that one? I haven't heard of it to be honest.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you like, if you're looking for books to read yourself, I can recommend you a really good one. It's not per se about sales, but it is about building a business in view of selling it. The book's called Built to Sell, and highly, highly recommend. I've recommended it to probably 100 founders so far, and all of them have absolutely loved it. Super easy to read. It talks in story format about a guy who owns an agency and is like overwhelmed by work, can't figure out a way out, and then it's all about building structures and systems and productizing your offering. in view of selling it. So yeah, very cool book. Always recommend it.
I'll buy it.
Yeah, technically, you can find it online. I'm sure. Even in the Philippines, things get delivered now. Things are changing fast. So one thing I noted from what you discussed earlier for SmartBite, you said that within 3 months you were able to 10x the business. So as a growth person, I'm highly impressed and highly curious. Tell me more about that period of time.
If you're watching this and you're a B2B startup founder in Southeast Asia, struggling to grow your startup, we have a whole community of founders just like you. And on a weekly basis, we discuss strategies and growth hacks. We'd love to have you amongst us. Feel free to join at nextbigwave.co or find the link in the description. I'll see you there.
So basically, we started SmartBite in the Philippines with very limited budget. No? So as you can imagine, early stage startup, not we didn't raise a lot of money in that moment. So I had really super limited budget. So basically, the team was only me and other four people in the. So the office was really a room in Makati, nothing really special. And in our model, you don't need a lot of company to make revenue. You need one but big. So the focus is we are only four people in the office, and if we focus on multiple small company, I don't think we can sustain the operation. So my focus was to find the big company who can make us go to the next stage. So in that case, I found probably the biggest BPO in this country. I was able to close a contract, and during Christmas I delivered around 100,000 boxes, gift boxes, to nationwide, and this brought us, basically from 1 to 1 million. So in that case, 3 months. It took me 3 or 4 months to grow to grow this company, to bring this company to the next stage, and we started from there. Then, with that base, we built on top, and now we are where we are. Yeah.
So you don't have to say names, but I'm assuming it's someone like Teleperformance or Concentrix that you were able to sign. And that's
I,
super impressive as an early stage startup, eh?
I cannot say the name, but it's one of these. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I get it. We were after the same customers at TendoPay, and like the sales cycle were very, very long, especially in our industry. We're selling financial services, so it was a bit different. But congrats on that. That's impressive. Definitely made your mark early stage in the business. So, how big is the team now in the Philippines?
In the Philippines now we have around 20 to 25 people in the office. We are not, our model don't need thousand of people. Let's put like that,
Right.
because
So,
everything is optimized by our technology.
so, so you deliver food though. So where, like, are you just the delivery agent, or are you manufacturing the food, or where do you stand there?
No, no, we don't manufacture the food. Basically, we use vendors to buy food and sell to our client, basically.
Okay.
So, mm. so basically, we onboard vendor in our platform. We use the platform as center of our ecosystem, and then when the client requesting for a specific food, we give them option, passing through our platform, so they can place an order, and we take care of the rest. So
Okay.
logistic, pre-sales.
Okay. So you do logistics though. And you're focusing on Manila exclusively, I assume, for simplicity, or already expanding nationwide?
We are in Cebu, Manila. At the moment, we are covering the north part of Luzon, south part of Luzon, Manila, Davao, Cebu, Iloilo, and so we don't have an office, but we have vendors, so we can deliver. So we don't need
Okay.
to be there. Yeah.
So you use third parties as well. And originally the company is Malaysian, is that right? I think I was doing some research.
Yes, exactly. The company was in Malaysia, opened in Malaysia 7 years ago, but with a different model. So
Okay.
basically, when I joined, we changed the model of SmartBite. So because it was more on the B2C with their own rider. Now we don't have any more riders, so the logistic is we outsource the logistics. So it's a bit different, and
Okay.
we are really focusing on B2B now. Before it wasn't like that.
Okay. Cool. And so this is an interesting story because most of the time you see founders are there from the beginning, but that's not the only time, the only way it happens. Sometimes people will join at a founder level and develop like a pivot or whatever. It seems like that was your case. Other people had started the business and then you joined as a founder essentially to develop a new market and pivot the business. So who essentially who were the original founders and how did they discover you? How did you get connected? Because I think that's interesting for a lot of people to know that they can also join companies, not necessarily have to create them themselves.
Yeah, so basically, the founder is Gabriele. Is an Italian guy who's
Okay,
is in Malaysia, based in Malaysia, and I got connected through the ex CEO of Zalora. He's a good friend of mine, and he presented to me this model. So I said probably something you can be interested, because I was always focused on the FMB, and SmartBite is more or less that. So you need to deal with vendors. So yeah, I got interested in the model, so I decided to to launch here in the Philippines.
cool. And you mentioned earlier about raising money. So I didn't get much information from Crunchbase, etc. It seems like you raised at several rounds.
Yeah.
One of them was crowdfunding. Is that accurate? Like, what's the status of your fundraising right now, and what are you looking at in the near future?
Pre-Series A, we are in pre-Series A. We want we need yeah probably we'll move to Series A soon. So we raised I think around $1 million, so in
So
total.
far?
Yeah.
Okay, and what
So
are you looking to raise, and how soon?
we looking to raise around three in the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay, are you involved in the fundraising or
Partially, partially.
partially? So let me ask you this: when we started raising in the Philippines or in Southeast Asia, Philippines was kind of untouched by investors. That was 5 6 years ago. How do you have you seen that evolving? Are you planning to raise from local investors, or are you still planning on looking at Singapore, Hong Kong, and the kind of the usual suspects more like?
So local investor is always the easiest way, right? So for me, yeah, I have few investor already local in the Philippines. So preceding is always the easiest way like that, especially local. If you have a good connection, you can easily raise some money. Now, what we need an institutional one, because if you want to scale, I think you need an institutional investor following you. At the moment, we are in an incubator called SSV. I don't know if you know them.
The
So
name has come up a few times, yeah.
yeah, so we are part of this incubator at the moment, and but we are still looking for we have different VC interested in our model, but we are still looking for the right one.
Okay. Cool. So, you know, we're both growth people, so I think we probably have a lot we could talk about. Have there any been any interesting strategies you've used? Getting to sign such a big BPO early on, you must have used some cool tricks. Is there something that you're able to share? Something that aspiring founders would be able to leverage, especially if they're in the B2B field? Some things you want to share for this.
So, how to sign a big corporate is always, as we know, is always super difficult. We need to give them any. Most probably, you need also sometimes you need to adjust your offer. The model need to be flexible. Let's put like that, because if the model is not flexible, most of the time it's super hard to sign. There is no specific trick to sign a big client. If they're interested in your product, you can sell it to them. The problem is, for sure, they will find something they don't like in the product. So in that case, or the product is flexible. Otherwise, I noticed many times, because we have a big client in the Philippines. So the list of client is long, and the client usually are a company with 100,000 employees per company. So this kind of company, they don't even listen to you most of the time if you are a small startup like SmartBite. But
Hmm.
you need to have a strong model. You need to have the product you're selling to them need to be solid. Otherwise, it's difficult. Let's start from the base: solid product, and then elasticity. So if you don't have this, the probability to sign a big client, are reducing and reducing and reducing. There is no
Yeah. So
specific. Yeah.
that's like the end goal is to sign them, but before you get there, a lot of people ask me like, how do you actually reach out to them? How do they pay attention to you? And it seems like, I don't know about North America too much these days, but in Southeast Asia, a lot of companies are still stuck in the easy outreach strategies where they like use tools like Apollo, they create a list of ICPs, then they blast them with very long emails that they assume people will read some miracle. And then they're sad that the response rate is 0.5%. And I'm always wondering, have they explored other ideas? There's so many playbooks that can be used. So I'm curious to know what some of the playbooks that you've been using that have been working, because obviously those models are kind of obsolete and don't work so well now.
The approach is always the same for us. It's we're targeting the right person in the company, decision maker. Then we are creating everything around him. So it's not about sending an email. We know it doesn't really work like that. So it's creating what they need, studying the person, studying the industry, studying the department, make sure they have budget. If they don't have budget, they need to have a budget. So we need to convince them to use their budget. So you need to create the deck and the product around them, especially for big client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
fair
this,
enough.
yeah, this is
So
basically
you
what
you
we do.
study your leads quite extensively before reaching out, and I assume
Yeah,
you do a mix of email, LinkedIn, calling, whatever it takes to get in front of them.
exactly, exactly.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so you mentioned quickly that you're in the Philippines. You're happy with your decision. Can For someone who hasn't been to Southeast Asia as an aspiring founders, why did you choose the Philippines specifically? And if you could sell it to me in 30 seconds, that would be awesome.
So to sell it to you in 30 seconds, why the Philippines is a nice country, because they have one of the best growth in Southeast Asia. The people are friendly. The economy, there is not much bureaucracy, so you have freedom to do, basically what you want, and the taxation is still okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all those points. And having been in Southeast Asia, have you run into some funky situations? Because some people are worried that, oh, yeah, well, it sounds good on paper, but I always hear these stories about Southeast Asia. So have you run into anything like that?
Which kind of situation, sorry?
I mean, I don't have an example specifically, but people run into situations where, like, okay, well, I'll give you some situation that I've heard from the Philippines from founders that I will not mention, but basically, let's say the Bureau of Taxation decides to show up at your door front, and without any notice, they said, hey, you owe us this much money with no justification whatsoever. And then you start a negotiation game and a dance around how to figure that out. So those are the type of stories that I've heard happening. And you don't have to go into specifics, but have you encountered anything like that, or
It depends.
via a third party?
It depends who will listen this podcast. What we can say, what we cannot say. No, that's the
Yeah, okay. I know what you're saying. Well, right now, not many people, but mostly founders are listening to this. So they want to hear firsthand the positives and potential drawbacks of Southeast Asia.
So it's in third world countries, especially Philippines, Malaysia less, but Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, yes, it's basically the same thing. So they need to be careful, especially with the government. They need to be super careful. Your papers need to be always in order. If your
Mm-hmm.
papers are not in order, you can have problem, but not legal problem. You need to pay. You need to pay, and you need to pay people. That's the problem in third world countries. So that's what I can say at the moment. But we encountered many situations like that in the past. So it's something really familiar for me.
Yeah. Okay. And we won't go any deeper into that. I understand where you're coming from, but without touching about governments or anything like that, just in business overall, what's the biggest horror story you've encountered throughout your story? Like anything juicy you can talk about?
Yeah. So actually, it happened this Christmas. I hired an employee specific for a specific task. It was for a special project, and this guy turned out one of the biggest serious scammer in the Philippines. So basically, he scammed tons of vendors. He still
Hmm.
around 6 million pesos here and there. and disappeared. Name was fake, everything was fake, document were fake, everything. So I had,
Wow.
yeah. So it happened last Christmas. This.
Okay. And have you found any countermeasures for that now? How are you planning to avoid it in the future?
You know, in this country, we follow the legal way. So there is a mandate of arrest now, the classic stuff. So let's see how it will end up. This story.
Okay, cool. And so is now the Philippines your main market, or are you planning to expand in Southeast Asia aside from Malaysia and the Philippines? What's the plan with you guys?
So we are Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore at the moment.
Okay.
Uh, Next expansion probably will be Indonesia, Vietnam, that kind of that part of Southeast Asia. One of the most interesting market for us probably can be Australia. So, but we need to wait for to close the round first because we don't have the actual fund now to open a first world country, especially like Australia. So we will focus in the next probably 2 years now in Southeast Asia. Yeah. So we open Singapore. With Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand. This is basically the the next country we want to open.
Okay. So, staying in Southeast Asia, most VCs want you to have a Southeast Asia strategy, which I sort of understand. But do you see any drawbacks to that? Because I mean, unless I'm wrong, but you probably haven't saturated the Philippines completely. Probably the same for Malaysia or Singapore. So, are you simply moving towards the rest of Southeast Asia because VCs want you to, or is there a specific reason for that?
No, no, it's not there is no specific reason for that. We noticed our model can work also in other market, especially in Southeast Asia. We did a test in Thailand and it worked perfectly. So we had also we tried Vietnam, Hong Kong. We had a deal in Hong Kong. So basically, the model is still not common. We don't have a lot of competitor. So we want to penetrate this kind of market before this model get popular. Let's put like that,
Mm-hmm.
because at the moment the real competitor we have, I can count in one hand, and are not big. Aside from Singapore, because we have one main competitor, the rest are all small. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I think it is the right time. Of course, we need to grow still the three countries because we still have a lot of work to do in these three countries. But in the next probably 12 months to maximum 2 years, we need to start to open other countries. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just tricky, right? Because I mean, I don't know how capital intensive your business units are, but at the end of the day, you don't want to stretch your dollar too far. You never know when the next recession is around the corner. You need to kind of be conscious about capital, right? So those are the things that I ask myself usually when people talk about expanding to a different country.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about yourself as an entrepreneur. We talked about you enjoying books, learning through that. How do you keep on top of your industry? How, like, are you listening to a podcast yourself, or is this the first time exposed to podcasts whatsoever?
Well, actually, it's my first time on a podcast. I never had this experience, and yeah, it happened to me to already a few times to listen interesting podcasts, mostly from the US.
Yep.
And but it's not something I'm doing daily. Yeah.
Okay, so what podcast, if you want to name some names, do you remember or?
I don't even remember, but was interesting. It was about business.
Okay, yeah, there are quite a few. This podcast, I'm trying to model it after a US podcast actually called My First Million. So the idea is really founder to founder, guys who have gone through a few companies and simply just want to provide a place for other founders to chill out, to listen to feel like they're a part of something. And I think it's something that we're really missing here in Southeast Asia.
Mm.
Are you planning to move around Southeast Asia anytime soon? I know you said you're married. Are you married to a Filipina, to a local
Yes,
person? Yeah.
I'm married to a Filipina. Yeah. No, my
So,
planning to. I'm always traveling between Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore because we have the three entities. So, uh, I'm taking care of different department in the three countries. So, probably half of the year I'm traveling. So
oh wow, okay. So how's Malaysia? It's a country that I don't know much about from just a general standpoint, but also a business standpoint? People talk a lot about Indonesia, Malaysia. I don't hear about a lot. So can you tell me a little bit about that as well?
Malaysia, a very interesting country with a decent growth also. Cultural wise, a bit complicated for me, but I think potentially one of the best things at PlayStation so far. Yeah,
Very cool. Culturally, you mean like language and things like that, right?
yeah.
That's
Mm,
actually what makes the Philippines so attractive is people speaking English. So that's actually interesting because you're the co-founder, the original founder, or whatever we want to call him. He's also Italian. He ended up in Malaysia. How did you guys overcome the fact that the language was so different? You know, in order to build a business there, it's not as straightforward as the Philippines, where first of all the admin is all in English, but also when you want to go do sales, when you do marketing, when you hire, when you talk to your team, everything is in English. How does it work in Malaysia?
no, same. They all speak English. It's not about a language barrier. We're talking about a cultural barrier. It's a bit different. So it's a bit
Okay, so Malaysia, everyone speaks English.
yeah, yeah. Especially in Kuala Lumpur, in big cities, everyone speaks English. Now, I'm not
So,
familiar with the province, but in the big city, yes.
but you're able to do your sales in English as well, like all the
Yeah, yeah.
corporations.
See?
Okay. In Thailand, it's very different, I have to say. So I think Southeast Asia is still extremely fragmented, but it's good to learn about Malaysia that it's very, very approachable from an English standpoint.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So, you know, I have quite a lot of questions, but I just want to make sure that I'm not overstepping because you got uncomfortable on one of the questions. So I wanna be careful with stuff like that. So maybe let's talk a little bit about your worth, like the way you work, how you operate. So I know that a lot of founders are optimizers. They love hacking their life. They love optimizing their life. Are there any? Is that something that you look into for yourself, or is not something you're interested in at all?
Not really, actually. I'm trying to balance. It's hard for a startup founder to have this work-life balance. You know? So it's super hard. So you need to find in your very small window of free time you have. You need to really put what you make you relax. I think mentally because it's super important to keep the your balance
So
because
what
if
does
you
that look like for you?
sorry.
What does that look like for you?
For me, it's
This
cooking.
personal relaxation
For
stuff.
me, it's cooking.
Oh, okay. So we have similar interests. Interesting.
Yeah,
So you're a good chef. Do you cook Italian, or are you? What are you interested in?
yeah. I'm cooking Italian, of course. I'm mixing with the Filipino flavor. No, so I'm trying to mix and experiment. I like it. I enjoy it.
Okay. Cool. So are you doing that on a social media? You have a cooking channel, or really just for yourself and your wife?
I did for Metro Channel a few videos, but nothing really interesting. If I because I did few years ago during the pandemic, but was an hobby. It's not really. I did because I didn't have nothing to do during the pandemic, especially in the beginning of the pandemic. So I was cooking at home. I created a few videos for them, but no. Otherwise, now I do for myself, for my family.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, shared passion for sure. Not no sports, stuff like that.
Yeah, sports, paddle. No, now it's paddle.
Oh, okay.
I cannot play anymore. I cannot play anymore football, so I play paddle. So I try to. My knee are gone.
Yeah, they're gone. I tried paddle once. I like tennis personally, but yeah, paddle I heard is going crazy in Manila.
Yeah,
It's like huge thing. Very cool. Whereabouts in Manila do you live? Are you in Makati as well? Or?
I'm in BGC.
Oh, you're in BGC. Okay. Very cool. Well, I'll have to catch you when I'm there for sure. Love to meet in person, hear more about your business. Things are going pretty well. Yeah, I mean, you know, before we end this interview, is there anyone you would want to shout out to, or anything you would want to shout out to specifically?
Mm, depend which topic because I
Open
have
ended.
so to maybe about something about SmartBite, something more deep
Of
about
course.
SmartBite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think SmartBite in the past 3-4 months had a super rapid growth because we launched we we perfection this platform called Smart Canteen. So basically, it's one of our product. This product is basically the future of the meal plan. So it's basically a platform where the employees can go in and order their own meal. So it's a dedicated page for the company. It's like you using I don't know, Food Panda, Grab, but for free because you have a daily allowance, and the food will be delivered to your office at specific time. So this is basically will change completely the the perspective in the office in terms of food. So you to imagine, let's put like this: before was the admin or the HR ordering food for the whole office. No, now we empower the employees to order by themselves, and the company is basically spending the same money. So this changing completely how we order food in the office at the moment. So this is helping us a lot to grow in not only in the Philippines but also in other countries. So it's super interesting how the people reacting because we transform something that was ending up dying like an old benefit, like providing food was an old benefit. Now we revived it. So company they're having budget, so they are the employees are feeling they have an extra benefit now. They feeling it's something like you can have the same power of an HMO, something like that.
Yep.
So it's super interesting. So it's something really helped us a lot. Yeah.
And probably impacts employee retention quite a bit, right?
Ooh, employee retention, also rate on Glassdoor. It's going crazy. So it's yeah,
That's
something
amazing.
interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. And then one last thing, I have a new segment that I want to start where the current guest asks a question to the next guest without knowing who he is, he or she is. So do you mind having one question that you'd be curious about a random future founder that I'm interviewing?
Yeah, just give me 1 minute to think about what I can ask. Something interesting. Otherwise, I think the game stopped. I would like to ask what they think of this country for the Philippines for the past for the next 6 years. What they think Philippines will reach, where which level will reach Philippines in the next 6 years in terms of economic growth, in terms of technology, and
Okay.
yeah, this is basically my question.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's going to be challenging for someone who is not located in the Philippines to have an opinion, but yep, definitely. I'll be asking that to the next guest, mystery guest. So thank you so much, Donatello. That was the pod, and I was super happy to have you on.